All right, Rich Hoffman here. You know, I just have to say I'm really proud of J.D. Vance. It's quite a journey to watch him now be vice president in the White House from when I first met him. And I have to say he's from my area. It's worth telling a few stories because I think there's a lesson here on you just never know when you do these kinds of political things and you get involved in local politics. You just never know where the people are going to go and what your efforts might do to help it along, and why it's important to be engaged at some level, because you can do a lot of good in the process. So when J.D. Vance was running for, and I had read his book already and I liked it, you know, my wife and I liked the movie that came out on Netflix, so I knew a little bit about J.D. Vance. But when he was running for the Senate, I was a Josh Mandel guy. I thought, oh, that's the guy. I know Josh Mandel somewhat. And I thought, well, he's a Tea Party guy, Tea Party conservative, and that's the guy I want to be the new senator. So J.D. Vance was going to be at the house of a friend of mine, Nancy Nix, the great Nancy Nix, Fulton County's auditor. And she's like, called me up, hey, I know you're a Josh Mandel guy. I'm going to have J.D. at my house. Why don't you come over and meet him? Talk to him a little bit. And the reason for that is, not just because she and I are friends, and I like her and her husband, and a lot of the people that are part of that circle of politics, I like them a lot. Always nice to go over to Nancy Nix's house and have a drink by her pool. It's always a good thing. But this was more of a business thing. She's like, look, it's going to be a tight primary. You got a couple of people out there running for this Senate seat, and I know you like Josh Mandel. I want you to meet J.D. Vance. Like, meet the guy from the hillbilly elegy. Well, why would I want to meet him? I don't. He's not a Trump guy. And Nancy has not been a Trump person. Her husband Bob has always been a Trump guy. So within their family, she was kind of a Ron DeSantis supporter. Didn't think that she didn't like Trump's mean tweets. She was not one of those Republicans that lean that direction too much. Over time, she certainly has become that way. But when she talked to me about J.D. Vance, I'm like, look, he's a never Trumper. He's one that came out after his movie and said he didn't really like Trump, and why would I support him? She's like, well, I think he's a smart guy, and you should just hear him out. So I go to Nancy's house and meet J.D. Vance and his wife, and I thought he was a really nice guy. And my skepticism was, all right, I got you here. You're a young guy. Are you going to go become a senator? If you win this Senate seat, what kind of guy are you going to become? I mean, you're going to stand up for the MAGA movement. Are you going to be there with tough, and you got Chuck Schumer trying to play all these kinds of games? Because we really need a more MAGA Senate than anything. And he just looked at me and he said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it to win it, and I'm going to do it to play hardball and represent our community well. I said, so when all the K Street temptations come at you, you're going to be able to withstand it. He's like, absolutely, Mr. Hoffman. Okay, I'll support J.D. Vance. And I did it mainly because I had so much respect for Nancy Nix, and Nancy's a really sharp person, and has great political instincts. And if I'm not that in love with Josh Mandel, what's the difference between this guy and J.D. Vance? So I said, okay, I can get behind J.D. Vance. But I was kind of not totally convinced. It took a while for me. But the other big thing that happened was there was some events going on. And I've seen J.D. Vance at a lot of events here and there. I'd be sitting in a chair, J.D. Vance be sitting right there. And it was one of those, okay, well, he's our senator. Not to think celebrity status, even though he wrote a very important book and had a movie made about him. He's our senator, and there he's at. And I've been to events with him and Don Jr. I've been to events with him and Bernie Moreno, and I've seen a lot of J.D. Vance. And the more I met him and talked to him and hung around where he was in Southern Ohio, the more I liked him. And of course, my rationalization was, well, this is Nancy Nix, and Nancy Nix has great instincts, and I'm not surprised that she turned out to be right about this. I really understood what kind of person J.D. Vance was after all the comments that he said about Trump not being on the Trump train initially. Again, he had just made a movie with Ron Howard, and Ron Howard is about as anti-Trump as you get. So I was very skeptical of J.D. Vance's background of knowing what he said. So there was some background stuff going on where we were all of a sudden going to, we had some events we wanted J.D. Vance to come to as a senator, some big shindig stuff. And I was meeting with his people, and we were working out the details. And then there was also this big Lincoln Day dinner event that was coming up, and Ron DeSantis was going to be the key speaker. So they brought Ron in to do the talk, to be the keynote speaker. And Vivek Ramaswamy had been doing that in the past, so that you always have to have a big headliner. Other times, there's always you got to have a feature speaker. And this year it was Ron DeSantis, and everybody knew Ron DeSantis was going to run against Trump. And so I was all about Trump, and I agreed to go because it's in my area and it's a big deal, and I wanted to kind of, like to go there and talk to some people I like. But I was not a Ron DeSantis fan. Well, while this was going on, I was talking to people that were mutually very friendly with J.D. Vance and myself, and again, planning this event, and not the event with Ron DeSantis, but another one. And I said, hey, is J.D. going to go to this Lincoln Day dinner here in Butler County, Ohio? And he's like, no, he's not going to be there. I said, why? He knows all of us, and he's been around all of us a long time. And it's Middletown, Ohio's in Butler County. Why wouldn't he want to go to the Lincoln Day dinner for Butler County? He's like, oh, no, that would be disloyal to Trump, and he just doesn't want that to come across wrong. So he's very cautious to have Trump see him as somebody who would be at the same event supporting Ron DeSantis at the time, because this is before the primaries. It's like, oh, well, okay, that's kind of cool. That's very loyal. That's good of him. That's a smart decision. And I was like, okay, that's okay. I gave me a little respect for J.D. Vance. And then I can tell you, when I first met Bernie Moreno, and Bernie Moreno was picked out by J.D. Vance to take over and go out against Sherrod Brown. And we've been trying to knock Sherrod Brown off for a long time. Just couldn't find a candidate that could really pull it off. And talking to Bernie, and of course Bernie was friends with Don Jr. and all kinds of people close to Trump, you start seeing this wonderful little coalition forming. And I couldn't help but think about Nancy Nix. And Nancy wasn't exactly a big Trump person, but here this coalition that was very loyal to Trump was forming behind the kind of people that she put her name behind. And she evolved, just like J.D. Vance did, towards being very loyal to Trump, even to this day. I think everybody's much wiser and better for it. And it just shows how people can evolve over time. I was always there with President Trump. I always saw the benefit of having a business guy in the executive branch, especially given the kind of platform that Trump had built for himself. But over an 8-year period, we all arrived at kind of this important juncture. And it kind of started in Nancy Nix's backyard. And with a call she made to me, it's like, I can be an influencer in a tight race. I can move the needle a little bit. So she's like, why don't you come and help my friend J.D. Vance out? Okay. I'll come through you. Give him a fair shake. And I'm not saying that I had he ran a great campaign, did a great job. He's a good person, and I know that personally. But it is quite pleasurable to be at this juncture now and to look back on all those events and all those phone calls, and all those little meetings we had, and all the hopes and dreams that people had about what could happen if only we got all these people together and maybe got them into the White House. And I'm very proud of J.D. Vance. I'm very proud that he comes from my area. I'm very proud of the Butler County Republican Party in the way that they put their arm around him and helped him advance him to get him over the top in a really tight race at the time for that Senate seat to win. And the way that he worked things in the background to show Trump that he was ultimately very loyal. He's very smart, very strategic. But ultimately, his investment paid off. No wonder he did so well up to becoming a politician in business and life in general, because he knows how to plant a seed and do good with that seed and move the needle in a direction that everybody needs it to go. He knew even when it was really politically advantageous. Sometimes when you're running for offices and you're trying to show that you're a good, strong conservative, you show up at everything. But he wouldn't go to that Lincoln Day dinner because, as his people told me, he doesn't want to show Mr. Trump disloyalty. He wants Mr. Trump to know that he's got his back. He's not going to be seen in an event with Ron DeSantis. So, okay, well, all that investment led to what you see now. He's in the White House, and it's really great. Very proud of him. I'm very proud of the people that supported him, and I'm very proud that all this hard work, some cases 8, 9, 10 years of work that goes on that a lot of people will never see, has and that a person like J.D. Vance stepped into it in a proper way, and that good people like he and his wife are now really poised to be in the White House for a long time, and that he played the game righteously and correctly to be in this position. And it all started, anyway, for me, in the backyard of Nancy Nix's house. And when I met him, he gave me an honest answer to my question: what's going to keep you from being like all the rest of these losers, these other politicians that are easily distracted by every shiny toy, and then they get to K Street, and there's all the seductions that go on with that kind of life. How are you going to be different than them? And he squared his shoulders, and he's a big guy, and he looked at me squarely. He said, "I'm not that kind of person, and I'm not going to stand for it." I was like, "Okay, that's good. Maybe I will support you. Maybe my friend Nancy Nix is smart and right again. She usually is right." Again, some people just have great political instincts, and she certainly does. And she was right about J.D. Vance right out of the gate. I joined the J.D. Vance movement because of her, and I'm glad I did. And he's made me very proud, and I love seeing him all over the place, representing President Trump the way he is as the vice president. And I know a little bit about the story behind the scenes and the loyalty he showed way out in advance that made him the pick for President Trump to make his vice president, and to create a situation I think gives hope to the world. It all started in Butler County, Ohio in a lot of ways, and J.D. Vance being just the right guy at the right time to do all the right things. And I have to say, Nancy Nix was right again. Everybody ought to listen to her when she says something, because most of the time she has her finger on the right buttons. She knows how to pick good people, because she herself is a very good person, and it takes good people to see other good people. So, nice little story. I'm reminiscing a little bit because I love seeing J.D. Vance out there now on the world stage doing wonderful things that seemed like a remote fantasy even 2 years ago. But J.D. Vance saw it way in advance, and he played the game correctly when nobody else could see it. And I think that's a sign of things to come. And J.D. Vance is the guy to do it. What a wonderful guy. And he's going to be a great vice president, and I think maybe a good president one day. We can only hope. The MAGA movement will continue well into the future, I think. And it starts with people like J.D. Vance and Nancy Nix and a lot of people who weren't originally Trump supporters, who are going to pick this thing up, put it on their back, and carry it to great things to come, because they're good people who are attracted to a good message and they want to do good in the world. And that's how it all starts. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.